Okay, decimal division, probably the most challenging, partly because students are challenged by the division process itself and partly because of the decimals in there. Now, we would again start with estimating, but as we talked about in one of the other videos, estimating with division is a little bit tougher. So we do have just this general rule. If you're dividing by more than one, your answer is going to be smaller than the dividend. If you're dividing by less than 1, your answer will be greater than the dividend. So if we look at something like 19 divided by 5, we could say that this is about 20 divided by 5, so we could estimate that one decently to be 4. 17.25 divided by 6 over here, that's close to 18. So using compatible numbers, 18 divided by 6 is about 3. But then these guys down here get a little tougher. 6 divided by 3/100ths. We can really kind of just go by this rule for students in 6th grade. It might be tough to get any more specific than that, knowing just that since we're dividing by less than 1, my answer should be greater than 6 and 792 thousandths. So that's something that I ask them to check for as we get into the dividing decimals until they get a little bit more hang of it and really understand a little bit more the relationship between the numbers. So we'll start with this dividing whole numbers. This 19 divided by 5 does not look like a decimal division problem. But one thing students need to remember is that it is 19 divided by 5. And when I set my problems up, I usually do that. I write the first number, 19, and I put divided by. And then I put the 5 on the outside because they often will put the 5 on the inside and the 19 on the outside. So I like to actually just say it that way and it becomes our habit. So it doesn't look like a decimal division problem at this point, but we'll see what happens. 5 goes into 19 3 times, and that is 15. And then we are left with 4. Now, since we are working with decimals, we're not going to put 3 remainder 4. We would like to keep dividing until we can't divide anymore. And in order to do that, we will add a decimal point after the 19, and we will add a 0 so that we can continue. By doing that, we are not changing the value of the 19. It is still 19. We are just adding zeros in the other decimal places in order to keep dividing. So now I have a 0 here. I can bring down the 0. And 5 goes into 48 times. The 8 goes above the 0. That's one thing we need to reinforce with students is that the number that is being divided will end up with the number in the quotient right above it. Okay, so 5 times 8 is 40. We subtract and we have 0 left. And so we are finished in that case. And our rule for decimal placement in dividing decimals is to put it straight up in the answer from where it is in the problem. That becomes a problem if students don't put their numbers in the right place. So if by chance a student had put the 3 above the 1 and then the 8 above the 9 and the decimal point is here, they would end up with 38. That does not match our estimate. Our estimate was 4. And in this case, the estimate does come in handy. That one was fairly easy to estimate. And so we could easily say, okay, yeah, 38 does not make sense. We took a number, we divided by more than 1, so we should have a smaller number than we started with, and 38 is not smaller. So we need to make those checks. Did they place the numbers in the quotient in the right place? And did they bring the decimal point straight up? And does it match with their estimate? Second one here, we're dividing a whole number into a decimal number, 17.25. So 17.25 divided by 6. And we said that that should be somewhere in the area of 3. Now, decimal point is here. 6 goes into 1 0 times. 6 goes into 17 twice. So the 2 goes above the 7. And that's something we just really need to emphasize with students so they place that in the correct place. That is 12. We subtract and get 5. And we bring down the 2. We don't need to do anything with the decimal. We're not going to bring the decimal down into the work here. It only stays up here in the problem. 6 goes into 54 8 times, which is 48. I hope I don't run out of space. 52 minus 48 is 4. I'm going to bring down the 5. 6 goes into 45. Sorry, it's a 5. 7 times, which is 42. That's okay. I'm going to work my way down between these problems. 45 minus 42 is 3. Now, I'm not going to have a remainder. I'm not going to have 2.87 remainder 3. I'm not going to have that. I can't have the remainders and decimals in my answer. So I will add a 0. I'm not changing the value of anything. I'm just putting nothing into the thousandths place, but that allows me to bring the 0 down here. 6 goes into 35 times, and that is 30. And now I have nothing left, and the problem is complete. If I take the decimal point and put it straight up into the answer, my answer is 2 and 875 thousandths. That is close to 3. That does make sense. Again, if the numbers had been shifted to the right or to the left, they may have brought the decimal point up and had 28 and 75 hundredths, or 2,875 10 thousandths. So again, making sure those numbers are directly above the number they're being divided into, and then the decimal point goes straight up. All right, now dividing by a decimal, 6.6 and 792 thousandths divided by 3 hundredths. Now, when we do have a decimal in the divisor, we want to make the divisor a whole number. So what we are technically doing, we say we're going to move the decimal point 2 places. And then do the same thing here, move the decimal point 2 places. So we end up with 3 being divided into 679 and 2/10. What we're really doing there is we're taking the entire problem and multiplying it by 100. And when we do that, if we increase this by 100 and this by 100, we get the exact same answer. And it just makes it easier to make the divisor a whole number so that we can do our division without worrying about this decimal point out here and this decimal point in here. Now we have 679 and 2/10 divided by 3. Now we could say, well, 660 divided by 3 would be 220. So we can now estimate this one once we've done the actual moving of the decimal point or the multiplying of 100 or 10, whatever it is, to get this to be a whole number. So 3 goes into 6 twice. That goes here. Subtract the 6. We have nothing. Bring down the 7. 3 goes into 7 twice. Again, 6. Subtract 1 and bring down the 9. 3 goes into 19 6 times, which is 18. 1 left over, bring down the 2. 3 goes into 12 4 times. So that does work out nicely. We don't have to add any zeros at the end to keep going. We are finished. And decimal point goes straight up. I know my number is off a little bit, but 226.4. All right. 100 divided by 3/10. Oh my goodness, it's so large. In this case, to make this divisor a whole number, we move it 1 place, which means we're technically multiplying by 10. And the 100 over here doesn't have a decimal point, so we put the decimal point here. Remember, the decimal point is always to the right of the ones place, and we move it once. So it goes here. And now we've got a gap. So we have to put a 0 there. So now we have 3 being divided into 1,000 is the same thing as 3/10 being divided into 100. 3 goes into 10. Maybe you know this answer already. 3 times, which is 9. Get a 1 and bring down the 0. 3 goes into 10 3 times. Subtract 9. Bring down the 1. Bring down the 0. 3 goes into 10 3 times. Subtract 9. We still have 1 left. We want to keep going, so we add a decimal point so we don't change the value, and another 0. Bring down the 0. 3 goes into 10 3 times. And once students do this a few times, they're like, wait a minute, this is never going to end. And they're right, it never will end because it is a repeating decimal. So our answer will be 333.33. And we can signify the repeating of the decimal by putting a bar over the decimal, and that signifies that it will repeat. And our last one, we're going to do decimal divided by decimal. So we have, I'm going to try to write small, 0.08 into, I did it backwards that time, 2,510 thousandths. All right, and we want to make the divisor a whole number. The dividend does not need to be a whole number. It's the divisor that does. We're going to move this 2 places, again, multiplying by 100 in order to move the decimal point 2 places. And that gives us now 8 is being divided into 20 and 5 hundredths. 8 goes into 20 twice. That is 16. We subtract and get 4. Bring down the 0. 8 goes into 45 times, and my 5 goes above that 0 because that's what the number I was using to divide into. Bring down the 5. 8 does not go into 5 at all. So that is a 0. That is one step students will sometimes get a little confused about. If it goes in 0 times, we have to put the 0. All right, and then we have to add another 0 so that we can keep going. 8 goes into 56 times, which is 48. I have to write really small because I'm going to run out of space. Subtract and get 2. Add another 0. Bring that down. 8 goes into 20 2 times. Subtract and get 16. I'm sorry, subtract 16 and get 4. Okay, one more 0 gives us 40, and I'm going to run out of space here, but 8 times 5 is 40, and when we subtract that, we will have 0. So our answer in this case is 2.50625, and that is our decimal division. Let me know if you have questions or need to see any more examples.